Hello all, and welcome to this GLF Live. My name is Patty Christensen, and I will be your host and moderator today. So today's discussion, we will be focusing on empowering women in rice agri-food systems. Now, as I'm sure you all know, rice is an incredibly important food crop for millions of people. In fact, I don't know anyone that doesn't eat rice regularly. Now, while both men and women obviously play very critical roles in rice value chains from production through to consumption, it's actually women's roles in these activities that are often understated, unrecognized, and undervalued. So we're going to talk about that because we do know that deliberate steps can be taken to develop inclusive and gender-responsive rice-based food systems. And this involves enhancing and making more equitable access to technologies, to advisory services, to finance, and to digital innovations. Our projects and programs need to be engaging women more, their collectives, how they work together in groups, in different nodes of value chains where the returns are higher, and focus more on diversified systems to reduce risks and unsustainable interventions. Working across sectors is key to this. So I am very happy today we've got a discussion with several specialists, one coming more from the agriculture and agriculture and rice systems perspective, and one coming more from the environmental and forests perspective. So we have with us today Dr. Ranjita Husker from IRI, the International Rice Research Institute, and we have Dr. Wina Andriana from UNDP in Indonesia, and she's joining us. Thank you so much, because it's late at night for you, Wina. I'm going to ask the two of you, if you don't mind, if you could just briefly introduce yourselves, where you are, and a little bit about your background, and maybe we'll start with you, Wina.
Okay, thank you, Patty, for having us, and to the World Bank and to the GRF for hosting this event. So I'm Wina Andriana. I'm the Technical Analyst for Environment Unit at UNDP Country Office, Indonesia. And as Patty mentioned, my portfolio is more in the natural resource and forest management, biodiversity conservation, and sustainable commodities lately, and through this Follower project. I'm also the safeguard and gender focal point for the Follower project, the Food System Land Use and Restoration project. And yes, I'm committed to advancing gender equity and inclusivity in environmental initiative. Over to you, Patty.
Excellent. And Ranjita, if you could give us a little background on you.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. Absolute pleasure to be on this. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. I'm Ranjita. I'm a social scientist trained in agricultural innovation systems, and I work mostly on gender and agricultural innovation systems, the intersections of those. Currently, I'm a principal scientist at the International Rice Research Institute, doing research on gender and livelihoods. And I'm based out of India, but have been in Philippines and Nairobi earlier, and still continue to work across Asia and Africa. And my work mostly focuses on how to make agricultural and technical innovations work for women who are most vulnerable to climate change. So the last few years, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand how we can make climate smart agricultural technologies, basically those sustainable technologies, work for women. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for both joining us. I think I forgot to mention that I'm the senior gender specialist for the Food Systems Land Use and Restoration Program in the global platform for this large program that covers 8 commodities and 27 countries across Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And the global platform is based at the World Bank, where I am. And this is a huge program funded by the Global Environmental Facility, GEF. Okay, so let's jump right in. I have some questions for you, if you don't mind. And I'd like to start with Weena. Weena, now I'd like you to talk a little bit about some of the approaches and interventions that are being tried in relation to this challenge of more sustainable rice value chains with a focus on women's empowerment. Now, you have a fuller project in many sites in Indonesia, and I know you're tackling this head on. So we'd love to hear from your perspective, how in these projects, what are the kinds of things you're trying that are helping to empower women? Thank you.
Thank you, Patty, for the question. Yes, thank you also for introducing Follow Project Indonesia. As Patty mentioned, we work in a different location with different commodities, and rice is one of them in one of our project site. So the Follow Project is planning to implement several innovative approaches to create sustainable rice value chain with a strong emphasis on women's empowerment. So we already have a comprehensive gender analysis and action plan that will guide our contribution to gender advancement and ensure that women's empowerment is at the forefront of our effort. So one of our primary strategies to women empowerment will be capacity building through intensive training session. This will equip women with essential knowledge and skills in sustainable farming practices, financial management, and leadership. For example, the project will offer training on the system of rice intensification, which will help women adapt and adopt more efficient and eco-friendly farming techniques. I think Ranjita would be more expert on this area. So this is expected to boost productivity and promote environmental sustainability. Another thing, the Ministry of Agriculture, which is the one of the implementing partner of the Follow Project, will organize their signature farmer field school, which has proven to be impactful, where women as a participation are one of the condition there. So as I mentioned, capacity building and training are cornerstone of our project. So I would like to share with you one of the ongoing activities of Follow Project, which is the system leadership capacity building training. This initiative involves participants from various levels of governance and community leadership, and of course, including local champion, women farmer, and youth from our project side. So as probably you already aware, the Follow Project Indonesia is promoting integrated landscape management system, the approach that balances agricultural productivity with environmental sustainability. So by developing the leadership skill of this targeted participant, this initiative aims to advance the mainstreaming of integrated landscape management across different levels. So this will be achieved by raising awareness about ILM issues. Sorry, ILM is the integrated landscape management, enhancing their capacity in various aspects of ILM, and providing practical hands-on experience at science level as well. So another thing is on women's empowerment is connecting women farmers to markets on the value chain. So I think it's also another vital aspect of the project works. The project aims to facilitate direct market access, helping women to sell their produce at better prices and reducing their reliance on intermediaries. Another thing is support network and mentorship program will also be crucial. The project plan to create opportunities for women to share experiences, learn from each other, and build confidence. So mentorship from successful female farmers and entrepreneurs will inspire and guide women in their agricultural pursuit. And we kind of seeing this during our work in the field. So, and then finally, we believe in the power of recognition. So the project will highlight successful women farmers through awards and recognition programs, most likely also through the ministry, because we work with the 4 ministries. So we have the channel to do so. This we hope can inspire others to adopt sustainable practices. Additionally, we will use media campaign to showcase stories of women who have successfully implemented sustainable practices, raising awareness and encouraging wider adoption. So I think that's from my side, Patty. Over to you.
Wow. I love it. That was very inspiring. You know, I'm hearing think that engagement, you're really thinking about the engagement, the capacity, the communications, right? With media campaigns, the recognition. I love that awards. That is very innovative and very cool. And that I think Ranjita will probably touch on this, the connecting women to markets, right? And I love the mentorship program. Oh my gosh, you've given me some great things to highlight as we share. We're trying to cross-share lessons across FOLR. And of course, they're not necessarily unique to rice systems by any stretch of the imagination. These are things other programs and other commodities can be doing too. Okay, Ranjita, I'm going to ask you a similar question, but maybe a little bit bigger picture. What kinds of strategies are you seeing being carried out in different types of projects and programs in rice systems that try to go beyond just enhancing the participation of women, which many projects do well, to thinking more about the benefit sharing, making sure women are equally benefiting, and in fact, that next stage to really empowering women. I'd like to hear a little bit about your experience and some of the things you'd like to highlight. Thanks.
And thanks, Veena. I've already learned a lot from what the experiences you've shared. So I'll probably touch on four big things in terms of strategies that we have been engaging in. CGIAR, the International Rice Research Institute, IRI for short, we are what we call ourselves a research for development organization. So we are essentially an organization that focuses on developing agricultural technologies and science, but not just for the sake of science, but something that can have significant development impact. And one of those impacts that we place very high is actually women's empowerment. So what we are trying to do is actually look at solution-oriented research and not just, academically research. So, but agricultural technologies are really important if we want sustainable rice systems or rice-based systems. But we also know that technologies are not neutral. Outcomes different technologies have for different people, men and women, are very different, based on who they are. Not just whether one is a man or a woman, but also the class, caste, age, ethnicity, etc. So essentially, the first thing to do is we are looking at how to make the technologies more gender responsive. So one of the technologies, for example, is climate smart rice varieties. So, stress tolerant varieties, drought tolerant, salinity tolerant, flood tolerant, and so on. But then we are trying to understand what the preferences of men and women are for different traits in these varieties, engaging in them in the varietal selection processes, but also engaging them in seed systems so they have access to varieties and seeds, which make them resilient to the impacts of negative impacts of climate change. And mechanization, what works for women. So developing technologies, individual technologies that are gender responsive. But evidence has also shown that just putting out technologies is just not enough. Women face so many other constraints: access to land, credit, knowledge, services, etc., etc. So, and evidence shows that women have very limited uptake of some of these very brilliant climate smart technologies that we have developed. So, how do we help them overcome that challenge? What we need is bundling of a number of innovations, social, institutional, policy innovations that can help women access and use these technologies to benefit from them, not just toil on the farms, provide all the labor, but actually reap some of those benefits. And I think a great example of that is actually what Veena was just telling us. So it is about leadership. It is about capacity building. It is about giving them access to markets. Just giving them a technology doesn't work. So we are trying to do is it, and this is not rocket science or something entirely new. A lot of us have done it, do it, but what we are doing is actually trying to demonstrate how to do this systematically, not just muddling through these processes, but how do we, based on thorough understanding of the context, develop those bundles, socio-technical innovation bundles, and then roll them out through multi-stakeholder processes. So that's one thing that's proving to be quite interesting and showing us some very positive outcomes. The last one I would talk about is, we talked about the importance of giving access to markets. So not just access to markets, what we are trying to see is how do we expand women's engagement in different nodes of the value chain? Yeah. Right now, you see them mostly on the farm sector, which is usually the most least remunerative sector, lot of labor, but the margins are really low. How do we get them into other roles in the value chain, be it service provision, could be extension, advisory services provision, could be input services provision, could be mechanization service provision through custom hiring centers, through women's collectives. So collective action proves to be a really, really important mechanism in this dimension. And also value addition. For example, I mean, just a very quick example, instead of just giving out paddy, even if they just did milling, the margins actually double. Value addition, we've started developing a lot of interesting products with rice, value added products, cookies, with traditional varieties, brown rice cookies, red rice cookies, ice creams with these varieties, cereal, etc. So these actually ensure that women are not just providing labor on these farms, but are actually fully engaged and benefiting from their engagement in these value chains and contributing to the economic, social, and environmental sustainability of these systems. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Again, lots of inspiration there and different ideas. I love the focus on collective action in my own research and work. It has just come up over and over as so critical. Women working in groups, but not just women's groups. It's often mixed groups, but then thinking about the dynamics and how it can work. But enabling and empower people to work together to solve some of these very tough problems is huge. Let me ask you now, I'm going to come back to Weena first, but I'm going to ask you also, Ranjita. Can you talk about a little bit about when you are working with women on the ground? What do they tell you regarding what achieving more agency, more access, and control over resources, information, inputs, etc.? What does it mean to them? What do they tell you? Weena, if I'll start with you.
Yes, thank you, Patty, for that important question. And we always excited when we go to the field, meeting with the woman farmers. So much to learn from them, right? So yeah, so when we work with this woman group across various sites in Indonesia, particularly in follower project site, we found that a recurring theme emerged. So while achieving greater agency and control over resources is crucial, many women emphasize the significance of having their opinion consulted and considered in decision-making processes, including those related to farming. We think that this perspective deeply influenced by social, cultural, and religious context as well. So, firstly, consultation and inclusion in decision making is paramount to them. Women that we talk, I mean, of course, this is, not all the women, but some of the women express a strong desire to be more involved in decision-making process that affect their life and communities. They value being consulted and having their voices heard, which they see is a form of respect and recognition of their contribution. I mean, this involvement can take various forms, such as participating in community meetings, being part of the advisory committees, or simply having a say in household decision related to farming and resource management. So these women believe that their insight and experience can lead to more informed and effective decision, benefiting not just their families, but could be, their community. So again, we think social and cultural influence play a significant role in shaping this perspective. Like in many communities, traditional norms, I think we all aware or agree that dictate that men are the primary decision makers and women play supportive roles, in general. However, this dynamic we're seeing in the field is gradually also changing. Women are increasingly advocating for a more inclusive approach. So they believe that their involvement can lead to better outcomes, right? So, well, interestingly, many women that we talk to articulate that while they do not necessarily seek to take control over resources, they want to be actively involved again. So the desire for involvement, not necessarily control, again, is a recurring theme. So I think just to conclude, my sharing, many women that we talk to in various project site, um, for them, achieving greater agency is less about taking control and more about being included and consulted in decisions that impact their lives. So they seek respect and recognition through a meaningful participation. And I think for this inclusion to be impactful in promoting sustainable agricultures, women need to be capacitated in various aspects, such as the aspect that Ranjita has also mentioned, sustainable farming, financial management, leadership skills. So by empowering women in these areas, we can ensure that their voices are not only heard, but also influential in shaping the future of their communities, for the longer term. So yeah, back to you, Patty.
Oh, wow. No, that was very well put. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, I think it's just, you've been so concise and to the point and sharp. I really am going to enjoy sharing this widely because there's some real gems in what you are saying. Ranjita, I'll ask you the same thing, what you think and what you hear from women. And I think what she said is resonating really well.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know if I can add anything more, Veena. I mean, you put it so well. That's exactly what I hear too. And across many countries. And I love what you said about it's not about taking control. It is actually about, being a part of the decision making around those resources, around things that matter to them. I think that's what I hear also. And I'm not going to repeat what you said also because you said it so well. I wouldn't spoil it further. But one of the things that ties to what you said and what I hear, what I'm increasingly hearing, and ties to the work that you've talked about, about having access to knowledge, etc., and the trainings and so on. These women that I've been talking to actually said knowledge is the most important resource for us that we want to have access to. It was very interesting for me. I mean, the penny dropped when I heard that. They said, I mean, they were talking about, yeah, loans and land and all that is fine, but often we do not have the confidence or the self-esteem. And we often talk about how women are not part of intra-household negotiations or decision making, and then they said, look, we hesitate to participate in discussions and negotiations basically because we think we are not good enough, we don't have the knowledge. But the minute we are given the knowledge, exposed to some of this information and are part of trainings, and we go back home with that confidence, we are able to ask for a seat at the table, have a discussion, and the family members also respect us. So do the community members. And that changes the whole work for them, having that knowledge, but also being embedded in institutional or formal networks seems to make the most difference to them. And that leads to a lot of other sort of almost like a domino effect. And once the household and community starts respecting them, there is change in the way they are treated. There is change in not everywhere, but at least we are seeing it in some cases. Men start taking care of some of the care responsibilities, domestic care work, so that they're freeing up women's time so that they can go out and engage in more remunerative work, because they also see the positives of this kind of engagement. Power relations begin to shift within the household, within the community. So I think, yeah, these are some of the entry points that we need to be working on. And this is what the women seem to want. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. Thank you. So that brings me to back to the Fuller program and how we are trying to link these very diverse projects in diverse places together, and knowledge is the glue. And so we're a knowledge platform. So I'm happy to hear, Ranjita, that maybe that's something we are doing in focusing on knowledge, sharing lessons, sharing what's working, what's not working also equally important is absolutely critical. So I think, I can't believe it, but we're already running out of time. And so I will just thank you very, very much, Weena and Ranjita, for joining us and sharing some of your thoughts, lessons, experiences, and doing it so nicely. This is an ongoing dialogue, obviously, and we will encourage audience members to engage with us in further conversations. Go to the Fuller website. We have documents, and we are sharing them with some links below, I hope. We've got a spring update document on the Fuller project that has some interesting things in it. We have had a gender learning program going on over the last year and a half, and there's different modules on integrated landscape management, on value chains, for example, with a focus on gender. So I would point you to those links to see those. We actually put together what I called a practical note, because again, I feel like focusing on what project teams can use from the wonderful research findings that Erie and others have been developing, and the lessons that Weena and colleagues have been bringing up from the ground. So I would point to this practical note. It's called Enhancing Effectiveness of Land Use, Food Systems, and Restoration Projects through Gender Responsive Actions. And I thank you both for making this gender responsive actions, activities, tangible. I think a lot of people would be saying, what is that? And it sounds kind of fancy, and it actually sounds a little difficult, but it's not, right? And I think that's our lesson, and you two are an inspiration. So I want to thank you all and thank the audience for joining us, and everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
Patty.